Hecarim is available. You got Udyr available, Lilia available, all of your big OP supports like the Alistar as well. So they're going to opt into the Alistar, not going for that Kaisa, importantly. That's been what Gala's been leaning towards consistently throughout this series.
Ming has played 16 games of Alistar the split. His second most played is Gragas and Rel at 7. So going back to comfort, the way they perceive this right now, right, is you already highlighted it. Hecarim's open, Udyr's open, Lilia's open. There are options there. Kai'Sa's open, Tristana's still open, Jinx is there. There's options in these other roles, but in their mind, Alistar is the only premier support pick left open.
And now with Kaisa taken away by Viper, we see the Xayah. This has been the backup pick for Gala. Whenever he can't get Kaisa, he leans towards this Xayah pick. It's fallen out of the meta a little bit, but it is by no means become a weak pick. It's still just as strong, just not as flavor of the month.
I wouldn't be surprised to see EDG pick up the Gragas here. We've obviously seen them give that one to Flandre many times, but it's also very potent in that bot lane as well, right? To where it is viewed as one of the perceived counter picks to the Alistar, but instead, maybe after all the losses, maybe there's a bit of PTSD with the Gragas itself, and they are going to be the team to opt into Rakan this time.
Yeah, I like the Rakan pick as well. You have a similar amount of hard engage to that Alistar. You have another ticket to get into that fight to follow up when Jiejie forces the engage. Now to the bans here. EDG looking to pinch the pools of these solo laners.
And this is where I'm really going to question where Scout wants to look, right? Because he didn't look that good on the Azir, so I'm glad we see that one banned out. He could realistically go back to something like a Victor or an Orianna, though I wouldn't be surprised to see RNG ban out the Orianna themselves with the amount of like setup and ball delivery they do have in their comp right now. The thing, if they do pick the Victor, is sure, it's actually pretty good against a lot of RNG's champions. They are very short range, but still, RNG still have the potential to try and pivot their comp into something, you know, more long range or more side lane oriented as well.
Yeah, Nocturne being banned away here. EDG could ban some mid laners. Remember, Zoe is not banned right now. Zoe is a pick that Scout could definitely go towards. It's a playmaker in the mid lane. If you ban something like the Orianna here from EDG, that could be an option where you have perfectly fine matchups. You quite have to go into something like the Victor and just try and push. They do ban the Orianna.
Yeah, so that really only leaves that Victor as the premier control mage open. Another thing that could go is if RNG don't ban the Gnar here, EDG just can go back to that one themselves. We've already seen Flandre and Gnar didn't really have the best game, had a lot of flawed ultimates, but I would say maybe Jayce and Gnar are the two picks I'm looking at for that fourth rotation. If EDG decide, hey, we don't want to put Scout on just a simple control mage, we want him on a playmaking champion, and look for that mid counter pick on 5.
See, remember, Zoe available. It's something that Scout has played many times before, but plenty of options as well. Could also go for the top laner blind for Flandre. They've done it time and time again, and it looks like that Jayce might just be the answer here. So anticipate perhaps Xiaohu picking Gnar into Jayce again. We've seen it every single time this series. It looks like that might be the answer.
I love how Flandre is just laughing at seeing the Gnar hovered over. He's ready for it. He had to find time last time around. You even highlighted how much pressure they did put on Flandre towards that top side. But still, again, for the most part, Xiaohu had a phenomenal game. If he did go to this, it's fine. The only thing else I could see him going on is the Scion, which we highlighted earlier. Sure, you're going to lose down the lane. You're going to become a big tanky threat and be that front line, but they do decide to stick with this one. Now, you're the team blind picking mid on the side of RNG. Cryin's like really down into the depths of his champion pool. You can maybe try to bring some global pressure if maybe you want to blind something like a Rise pick. We've seen him pull out the Galio as well. Had a phenomenal game on that, but I think blinding that's much harder. They do stick with a bit of global pressure in terms of the package, but they want to bring it late. They feel the heat in this game 5.
All right, well, the hover on the Syndra. I was hoping for a little bit of Zoe action, but you know what? After the last game, I don't blame them for just locking in the Syndra for Scout. He looked amazing on it.
Munchables.
Feels like a really comfortable composition for EDG.
This was the position where you bring out the Game 5 Zed, the Game 5 Corki counter, but oh well, you know, we do get the Syndra, another lane bully coming out, so Scout had a phenomenal game last time around. He's going to have the same level of potency. He should be able to get an advantage in this matchup, and this is RNG. Right now they have Xiaohu on Corki and Cryin on Gnar. The thing is, you can never put it past RNG to do something like this, but Sadly, Munchables,
Look,
they're not showing their true RNG colors.
Here's the thing. Even if Cryine's playing the Corki and Xiaohu's on the Gnar, it wouldn't surprise me if Xiaohu just walked mid with the Gnar anyway. It's not like Xiaohu's a stranger to playing in the mid lane, let's be honest. We're on to the Rift lyric. It's game number 5. It's game number 15 of our playoffs. Best of 5s in the last 15 games here. EDG on a 2-win streak. You can hear the crowd going berserk. Cryin bringing out the Corki as the final lock-in. And RNG desperately looking for a win. Getting 2, let's be honest, easy wins in the first 2 series. It felt like RNG were the clear better team in the first 2 games of the series. But EDG finally digging deep, bringing us back into this series. Now it feels like we're not going to see that same early aggression that we saw out of RNG in game 1 and 2.
And the thing is, once again, we have 2 very interesting compositions that are going to kind of come down to the details of those fights. I would say the longer this game goes, I do like what RNG has put together. They not only have a much more potent front line in terms of that they have Alistar against Rakan, they have a Gnar up in the top side as well. They have a lot of a lot of tools to avoid the engage and flanks coming out from EDG, right? With the W from Corki, if he's the package, Xayah having the Feather Storm, they can reposition well and deal the damage they need. So the later it goes, I do think RNG has more tools, but EDG showed last time, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. The Scatter of the Weak is there. Rakan will have massive impact, and Flandre's going to be standing in the back line throwing out the accelerated shock blasts.
Yeah, he'll be trying to do some work on this Jayce, and we have seen some absolutely absurd Jayce play. Although I will say, I think the better Jayce this series has been Xiaohu. The shock blast we saw into Viper, where he was just blasting him out of the fight, it felt like that was the best Jayce performance that we've got to see so far in this series. But let's take a look across the board here at how we're expecting this game to go. You can see both junglers pathing up towards the top side here, and Wei actually skipping his wolves, going straight towards blue, maybe looking for an early gank.
So he did ping up for a gank towards the top side, but they did just see that Flandre warded. So it seems like they are going to go aboard on that one. One thing I want to note real fast is that in early laning phase, EDG actually have 3 winning lanes. Because we know Syndra's going to have pressure up against the Corki. We know Jayce is going to have pressure up against the Gnar. But in terms of like first few levels, Rakan will have the advantage up against the Alistar lane. We also know Kaisa offers more early burst, even though Xayah has a bit more push with her feathers. It won't be until that level 3 point. Oh, God.
Cryin is getting kicked out of the mid lane again. Every single game this series, Scout has just had a straight-up advantage in that mid lane. Wei is hanging around. He's on his wolves. He's nearby if Cryin gets in too much trouble. Look at the CS that's being denied, though. He's not level 6 yet, so he cannot farm from afar. Cryin is getting completely shut out. Scatter the Weak comes in. That leaves Scout vulnerable, but Wei doesn't commit to the play. Jiejie is here as well. But Jiejie already got the top Scuttle Crab. This is going to lead to a double Scuttle just off of Scout dominance in the mid lane.
I mean, oh, God, is he going to find it? No, almost, but Scout's dominance, 3 winning lanes, very easy for Jiejie to be able to secure this one. And now we're going to see if EDG, you know, can take this advantage, push it to its max, and truly snowball. But hitting on that Corki pick, right, this is why we didn't anticipate it or expect it to come when we saw draft, because it is so punishable, but Flandre might be punished
Flandre's
himself.
in trouble. He's pushed too far up the lane. Wei looks for the stun, will be able to find it. One more auto from Xiaohu, flashes for the kill. And the Emperor of Spring is here to make his mark.
Yep, Wei respecting and giving that one over. Xiaohu does have to burn a flash for it, but at least going to be able to make his way to sooner plated steel caps, have an easier time in that matchup like he did last game, where we remember, he got some early kills, got the back, got the early plated steel caps, and then the matchup wasn't much of a problem for him.
Yeah, it's much better once you get a couple of defensive items. Ming's in trouble, though. Huge trade. Going the way of EDG. This is one of the things about Viper. This is why we've been hyping this guy up all season, is it's not just the team fighting. His team fighting is phenomenal, but he's a god in the lane phase as well.
And it's really telling, especially with him laning with Meiko. Not that Meiko was ever really a bad laner, right? But Meiko wasn't much of this dominant 2v2 laner last year when he was with Hope. They were much more of this late game as he's caught out.
He's gone too far on this one. The Ignite is there, but he jumps over to safety. He gets out with his life. Man, Rakan is so damn slippery. He must be covered in oil.
I think it is a fair trade-off, right? You're not tanky. You don't provide that much damage. You need to have something going for you. does have a lot of mobility, is able to squeak in and out. And this mid lane domination just keeps going. I love how far forward Scout's playing. He is trying to zone him off these minions and push this advantage even further.
Yeah, Scout definitely, I think he's been taking this series personally. I'm not going to lie, Lyric. Oh, he's level 6. That's bad news bears for Cryin. Doesn't commit to the ulti. I think he was almost in lethal range, but realizing that he doesn't need to risk it. Doesn't need to risk potential lethal when he could just play this one slow. There's nothing Wei can do about it. Jiejie moving towards that part of the map as well.
Yeah, Munchables, I think they could dive. I mean, you have level 6 on your Hecarim as well. You have Ghost. He's low. He has Flash, but I don't think it matters. I think you have the damage.
Cryin's doomed on this one. There is the ulti stunt available. He's just going to let Jiejie do it. Doesn't need to risk his life. Doesn't need to do anything silly. Cryin doesn't even get to flash in that one. Scout is just smacking Cryin in the 1v1.
And EDG might just be able to take over this game off of a blind pick Corki, right? Picking such a weak laner that does have so many things that can answer it in the laning phase. It does go to the point that we've said this has mostly been Cryan's identity all split, is more of like scaling control mages, being much more of a team fighter, but this is very standard RNG as well. The Ming roam towards topside.
When it's not working out, when you're in the last game of your best of 5, run it back to what worked all split. Feed Xiaohu, get the Emperor of Spring ahead. He's on the Gnar and Flandre's looking for the all-in, but he can't win the 1v1 right now. Xiaohu's quite handedly winning this one. Gets the hyper, has the boomerang, and he might just be able to finish off the kill by himself. The stun comes through from Wei at the end for an assist, but let's be honest, that was pretty much a 1v1.
I also love how consciously Wei is making the effort to make sure that Xiaohu gets all these kills. They want Xiaohu to be the big carry. The sad thing for RNG's composition is it won't matter too much if Xiaohu does get these kills. I think it'll feel pretty good in the mid game where it's like, hey, if you accelerate this Gnar, if he gets some of those items that he was building earlier, right? Dead Man's Plate, a Force of Nature, the Stride Breaker, it's like, hey, Scout's damage isn't really going to hit you at all. And then for Flandre, he's going to be so far behind as well, his damage shouldn't really hurt. It's only when we're getting to the later stages of the game where it's like, hey, we need our Corki ahead, we need our Xayah ahead, and we're not really setting down the key carries of EDG yet.
But look at the CS difference that we're seeing in the mid lane and in the jungle right now. Massive, massive advantages for both Jiejie and Scout off of what's happened in the mid lane. And it doesn't feel like the goal difference from the 2 kills is quite as significant for the side of RNG. What with it being on the Gnar, as you're saying. But the Drake so far, that first one did go the way of EDG. Wei trying to make something happen onto Meiko, but again, he's on that Rakan. Might be able to jump away, but the Pulverize stops it. Meiko jumps on out. The shield isn't enough. And the kill goes the way of Ming.
Really nice play coming out from RNG. It looks like Meiko escaped with his life, but Ming does get the ignite down. Gala also followed up with the flash, and they get 1 turret play. I love that we get into game 5, and then this is where most of the action is coming out, Munchables.
Yeah, trying to set up Gala again. Gala has been one of the highlight players for RNG as well. Wei, knowing that he can't just sit on the Gnar all game. Cryin moving in, but he doesn't really do a whole lot of damage just yet. Xiaohu's about to hit Mega. That's a good scat of the week, and Cryin is real low. In goes Xiaohu and sets them up for Cryin to knock him down. But Cryin went down, actually, and Xiaohu's in trouble. Scout's still going strong in this fight. It's all gone wrong for RNG. The fight that they started blows up in their face. Now Meiko's in trouble. Jiejie trying to get his support out to safety. All things considered, it's a 2 for 2.
It's so unfortunate because the setup looks so nice, right? We see Xiaohu find the engage, Cryin follows up with the package, but there's just no real damage between them. Cryin especially is so far behind, was only sitting on the Caulfield's Warhammer in that fight. Gala and Ming were making their way up to try to, help out, provide support, but they weren't able to make it up in time. And it's like, you end up with a 2 for 2. Also, Viper pushed in the wave bot, so he now has a bit of a CS advantage. And also a level lead on Gala.
It felt like Scout there was almost surprised that they went for the all-in. He's like, oh, you're approaching me. Just turns around and dishes out all of his damage. Xiaohu now trying to dive onto Flandre, but the wave has been cleared. Xiaohu knocked away from the tower. Nicely done there by Flandre to quell the pressure up in that top side. And now look at Viper. Wants the 1v1 with Gala. Wants a bit of revenge. Won't find his all-in, though. Gala still has that Featherstorm.
Gala is going to be able to get out, but still nice HP trade coming out from him. Now they're going to be able to put pressure on this bot side as well. If Jiejie wasn't showing top right now, they'd even be able to try and like fake that they're diving, right? Clear out this Tri-Burst vision, play very aggressively, and maybe try and zone RNG off some of these minions.
So when we look across the map here, you can see RNG moving up to the top side. They've got a Scuttlecrab, a Herald as well, to look for a tower, and Flandre, I think he's not long for this world, unfortunately for him. Xiaohu finishes that kill off. Nicely done by the RNG top jungle duo. And once again, you see Wei gifting a whole heap of gold over to Xiaohu. He just has to walk in range, get a couple more autos. The Demolish will finish the tower. And that'll be the first tower of the game taken by RNG. And with that, the gold lead as well.
And I think Jiejie realized that he realistically couldn't provide any support. They did want to go with that play that I was talking about where, hey, you go bot side, you hover for your bot lane and enable Viper more. Because let's say Jiejie did stay top side and didn't cross map. I think Wei still just shows up the top wave, drops Herald, you guarantee turret, and, you know, it's like a similar thing happens. Maybe you don't lose as much because Flandre doesn't die, but you also don't gain the advantage that you would be gaining bot side if he had gone through with that.
Yeah, exactly. And we are now at a point, Lyric, where RNG have themselves the advantage. It felt like EDG was slowly but surely building advantages across the board, right? We had CS leads going in mid, in bot, in jungle. But look at Wei's scoreline. I said it earlier in the series. A lot of people considered Wei to be the best jungler of the split for at least a large portion of the split. And then in playoffs, it felt like he wasn't performing. But here in this game, he's everywhere he needs to be. He is the momentum that RNG are winning this early game off of.
He's just been everywhere. It's why we highlighted him as a key player, because wherever Wei goes is, you know, where action happens. Part of, you know, being a jungler in general, but still, RNG do let him make a lot of the calls as he's found his way to Flandre.
And you know what? For someone that's building full tank, that's a lot of damage coming out from Wei. Or look at the CC chain. Flandre doesn't have any damage to follow up, though. Everything was on cooldown. And so even though the CC chain looks real good for EDG, they can't finish any of these kills off, and it means they probably should just back away from this Drake. I feel like RNG just have a straight advantage now in the fight.
Still, though, Xiaohu's Mega is going to time out, so EDG even could just play the waiting game and just back off. Looks like both teams going to respect the potential advances of the other. Xiaohu knows he doesn't provide any value without that Mega, so RNG aren't going to be the team to look for Dragon, and EDG probably will just be able to capitalize off this.
I didn't notice Ming had used his ultimate as well, so without being able to be tanky, it's really difficult to find that hard pitch. So EDG off of the back of these early advantages, especially how much damage Scout is going to be doing right now as he's getting close to finishing the Ludens. They're going to be in a real good spot to grab themselves a second Drake. Mountain Soul will be the name of the game here, with EDG having the 2 Drake advantage to start us off. And it's ultimately I was going to say a fairly low kill game. It's 9 kills in 13 minutes. For other regions, that's a lot of kills. But that's quite a quiet game here in the LPL. Xiaohu actually going to look for a red buff here, trying to bully out Jiejie. And this has been kind of the story of the top side of the map, right? Where Wei is just constantly up here, making sure that Xiaohu can find advantages.
It's also really interesting to note that Cryin went straight towards the Man Immune. Typically, you'll see Corkis go for the Essence Reaver first, so they have a bit of like lane prowess with the passive coming out from the Spellblade passive coming out from Essence Reaver. Instead, realize, hey, I'm losing lane too hard. I'm not going to be able to contest this lane at all. I want to keep my eye on if he goes for that Essence Reaver for a mid-game spike or goes straight towards the Immortal Shield bow that we usually see on Corki.
Yeah, I'm curious what kind of build he's going to go for on that Corki, and, you know, wiggling his bum on towards that mid lane here. I have to say, maybe the most adorable skin in the game. Although New is also up there. Anyway, enough about cute skins. We are going to see, as we head towards the 15-minute mark, right now, gold is actually in favor of RNG. But I think in terms of individual players, and I feel like I'm just a broken record, but it's been true every single game, it's Xiaohu versus Scout. Xiaohu, with the 3 kills on the Gnar, he's getting real tanky, already has the Stride Breaker to be a huge engage and massive teamfight ulti. On the other side, Scout, with those 2 early kills on his next recall, will finish his Mythic. And that is just such a massive spike for Syndra. That is so much power in those skirmishes.
And the thing is, right, when we're comparing these 2 spikes, it's like You know, Scout's going to have burst potential if anyone from RNG missteps, if he just lands a good Scout of the week, to where all of Xiaohu's power is conditional, right? He needs to be in Mega. We need to be looking at something like a team fight, or if they bring way up and they look for another dive, but always need to play around that Mega Gnar bar. And, you know, talking about Xiaohu's advantage this time around, he has been a standout player, and again, I think in a lot of the wins and losses of RNG been the standout, but this game at least, Wei was spoon-feeding him pretty much every step of the way.
Yeah, but, you know, Wei got the sloppy seconds there as well. He's got 4 assists for himself, so can't complain too much from his side. He's down in the CS department and did have to smite away the blue buff. But ultimately, it was with Xiaohu that he was collecting it, so not the end of the world for them. EDG grouping up here. Herald is on the map. Will be for another 3 or so minutes.
Package
as
well.
For another 2. Oh, that's a scat of the week and a half, though. You're right. Package available for Cryin, if it can find an angle, but Viper's on the Kaisa this time. Oh, and that's a huge amount of damage onto Gala. If a Void Seeker was available, that could be an assassination. But remember, Featherstorm is so crucial in this matchup.
It's really interesting, too, because both teams have poke they can throw at the enemy, right? You have the rockets coming out from Cryin, but you have the orbs as well as the accelerated shock blast coming out from EDG. Xiaohu goes in.
Knocked away by the Scout of the week, but it doesn't matter. Scout is taken down. Meiko trying to flee for his life. I feel like I've said that 1,000 times this game already. He will survive, but RNG now move towards the Herald.
I think most important thing is as well, Ming still has his ultimate, so can serve as that engage, can serve as that front line, but they need to start building up Xiaohu's rage bar again, you know. He also needs to be a... Oh, Ming goes in!
Ming just goes in for it. 4v5 here. Featherstorm across the team. EDG health bar's low. It will be 1-for-1, though, ultimately. It's still okay. Viper is still going strong. Herald about to reset here, and it's not going to be smited out. It won't be finished off. Jiejie steps up to try and go for the Herald now because RNG have to retreat.
That's the thing, right? You traded jungle for support. EDG will take that every time. Scout also did respawn, so he TP'd back to the mid lane. Xiaohu's just being a little cheeky.
Yeah, he maybe is overstaying on this one. Yeah, you got to be careful there, Xiaohu. Maybe time to back away. I'm not entirely sure why he doesn't just reset there to be on the same timer as his team, but, you know, each to their own, I guess. I'm not the Emperor of Spring. Who am I to criticize?
I guess luckily for him, right, Dragon's still 30 seconds away, so he's still going to be on like a decent enough timer, but we're going to see Xiaohu goes in. You highlighted the Scout of the week, but package comes out. Ming follows up. He is instantly deleted. Sadly, Cryin's low, and in that next engage, right, Xiaohu didn't have Mega Gnar, didn't even have a way of stacking it. Is Scout again is who we're looking at right now, setting up for this Dragon.
Xiaohu trying to move in. He's about to hit Mega, but he's knocked up. It's going to be a knock-up only onto Meiko, but that's still a pick. Scat of the week, again, is huge from Scout to deny the follow-up from RNG. And Flandre is just off to the side. Even though EDG lose a member, they're kind of fine because they can just continue to poke out in these skirmishes. They don't need the all-in. Another Scat of the week here. And now with the TP coming through, can they actually stay? EDG playing with fire just a little bit. Xiaohu exhausted in mini Gnar. The whole team spotted out by the blue trinket. Ming takes another hit, another Void Seeker. EDG still contesting this. Ming is real low, and EDG want themselves a 4v5. Xiaohu about to turn Mega again, but his ult is on cooldown. Dragon goes the way of RNG, and now they get straight out of dodge.
Ooh, they're going to find it. Scout of the week does hit, but no...
Oh
God, Viper does it!
Viper the sniper! What a shot!
And that's the thing, right? I love that you highlighted that, you know, Meiko is dead, but it didn't really matter because you still have all the poke coming out from EDG. You have all the orbs, Scout of the week, accelerated shock blast, Viper shooting out his W as well. You just have so much that you need to deal with on the side of RNG that EDG were allowed to posture around, see if they can get health bars low enough to where they can either threaten and engage or threaten to steal. They do lose the Dragon, but still, worthwhile pick in the end.
Yeah, nicely done. And ultimately, they trade one support for one support. After all of that, that was all of the kills that went down in the end. But it will be the Drake, as you rightly say, going the way of RNG, stopping the snowball from EDG, because importantly, that would have been sole point. If Jiejie was able to get the smite down, that would have changed the face of this game, and it would have put a timer on RNG. But we kind of reset now. Scaling is good on both sides, and it feels like EDG even though they don't get that Drake, they're still fine. They're still okay to just tick the boxes here and just farm up the waves. It's a 2,000 gold lead in favor of RNG, but it feels like the game is actually very even.
Yeah, the game is definitely very close. We already highlighted some of the tools earlier that RNG has to outplay some of the engages, but I didn't even take into factor that EDG can just play this comp from a long range. It can just throw out these abilities and look to engage on the back end of some health bars being low. I do think RNG's comp has a more proficient ability to play through side lanes, though. That is one of the good things about Xiaohu being a whole item up on Flandre, and then Cryin is going to be much safer in a side lane than Scout on his Syndra.
And you know what? One thing I really want to point out on the scoreboard right now is Viper on 200 CS, 30 up on his lane opponent. He has a Kraken Slayer. He's going for the Collector. When he hits that second item, he is going to be able to completely one-shot Cryin, to completely one-shot Gala if he can find them. Even Xiaohu if he's in mini-Gnar, honestly. We're in a position now where Viper, after a split of being one of the best players in the entire league, needs to show up in this series. This is what the entire split was for. This is the only reason you're playing in the first place. It's time to show up on this Kaisa. He's set up for success. He's looking great so far today. Can he be the difference maker as RNG siege down
Scout
in the mid lane? They get themselves a tower, Scatter the Weak flashed away from. And RNG, they get the tower and they get out.
RNG did a nice job. They did exactly what we were talking about. They sent Xiaohu and Cryin to the side lanes. They pushed out those waves. It looks like they are slowly building up towards EDG side of the base. They see some people show on those side lanes, group up towards mid. Xiaohu is threatening with his Mega Gnar, and they're able to secure an objective.
Nicely done here by RNG. Using the side lane pressure. When we think back to how RNG played for the majority of the split, they were one of the only teams in the LPL, right? When you think all the way to the start of spring, they were one of the only teams in the LPL using side lanes effectively and going for this kind of 1-3-1 style. And it does feel like it's been sort of their bread and butter all year long. And it's good to see them returning to this strategy. It's game number 5. Everything that they have worked for is on the line. And one of the things we've criticized them most for during playoffs is that they weren't playing the same style that worked for them all split long. And now when it matters the most, they go back to what worked. They go back to feeding Xiaohu on the Gnar. They go back to playing this 1-3-1.
And that's the thing. I just want to keep highlighting items because he's, again, a whole item up, has the Dead Man's Plate completed, has another Winged Moon Plate in his inventory as well. Dragon's going to be up in about 1 minute. He's going to be the key player to watch. Him and Wei especially is where all of the gold is funneled. Cryin did go with the Essence Reaver route, so still did want that mid-game power spike coming out with that. And then to me, it's going to be about how do EDG play it, because we've seen all of EDG's success comes from playing it patiently, not rushing in with an engage, and throwing out a lot of those poke and pick tools. Because in this composition, Hecarim can't really look for flanks because he is the only frontliner this comp has, and Meiko isn't the main engager that he needs to be.
We've got frenetic Corki cam in the bottom left of the screen. It's hurting my
so
brain
cute.
a little bit, but it's adorable. And I'm pretty sure that's telling us that package is available. Picked up now by Cryin as they move over. Drake in 15 seconds. Again, this would be sole point if EDG are able to get it for themselves.
And we're looking Xiaohu's ultimate plus the package combo.
Oh, but the Scatter Weak denies it, and Xiaohu will turn Mega, but he will not have the opportunity to do it while he's jumping. Gala takes a Shock Blast as well. And honestly, with that early damage, maybe this is just Drake giving over. Xiaohu's recall does have TP available if he wants to commit, but it does feel like that would be a bit of an overextension. I think actually RNG pings towards the Baron here. Cryin get real low, gets forced away. That surely quells any kind of ideas of aggression from RNG.
I just love how you would never look at this comp on paper and like the first thing come to your mind be like, hey, you know, this is a poke comp. But Accelerated Shock Blast, Void Seeker, the Dark Spheres, they're just doing so much work. RNG can't even get close. RNG pretty much need to be able to come to an objective and engage immediately, right? You either need maybe a ward on a flank or do what RNG did very well earlier in the series and in the split as a whole, which is like, hey, don't just come off mid lane prio, also abuse the fact that you have push in the bot lane and bring someone in through there, and then just be willing to pull the trigger immediately, because if they just stand in front of EDG, all they feel is pain.
And do you know what? On that thought process, and at risk of being flamed massively by Reddit and Twitter, I wouldn't mind seeing a 4th item Zhonya's from Viper. Just if you're gonna play these fights at long range, having that CDR and being able to have the extra AP to find the evolution on your W certainly can add a lot to the toolkit for Kaisa. Xiaohu will walk away with his life. Just to clarify, I don't expect him to go Zhonya's here. I expect him to just go full crit build, but it would be cool to see.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, right? You're saying if this is the play pattern that's going to hold up for the rest of the game, right? That does sound like theoretically the most efficient, build he can go for with that Evolved W. So, Munchables, I like your Dark Technologies ideas, but, Viper wants to carry my dude. He's going to build full crit, and then we're going to start seeing some banger team fights. But right now, we're just seeing RNG continue to control side lanes, get some vision into the enemy jungle. They're going to send Xiaohu down bot now, and, now we're just fighting over vision control for the Baron.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, Lyric, I'm feeling kind of impatient here. I just want them to fight. I want to see how this ends. It's so tense. RNG and EDG in game number 5 to decide both the rivalry and who makes it to the finals, who gets their rematch against FBX, who gets to fight for their spot in MSI. It's all on the line, and both teams, you can feel how tense it is in the game as well, because they're both playing so safe, so cautiously. As you rightly say, Baron on the map and RNG currently with vision control of the area. But with only 2 items on the Xayah, with only 2 items on the Corki, it doesn't feel like they're in a position where they really want to force fights. But then again, I've been wrong before, Lyric. Flandre is caught out, has to flash. Wade trying to chase this one down, but changing forms. Wade flashes underneath the tower, has a lot of damage to himself. Xiaohu Goomba stomps Flandre to finish the kill, but it's answered as Viper flies in. He doesn't need AP to carry this game. Xiaohu actually gets out with his life, though, and it's a 1-for-1.
Yeah, the cavalry from RNG showing up strong. I was almost sure he was 100% dead as well. We saw Viper follow in with the ultimate, and I mean, luckily that was the end of that. 1 kill for 1 kill, jungler for top lane. No objective up soon, as yeah, Munchables, that happens.
I love Syndra when she just steals camps away. I always think it's just so funny. It's the same with Tom Kench when he gobbles them up. So Gromp denied, importantly. I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this fight. But
oh, that was clean. Dodges
the so good around that as well. He does it every Herald.
Yeah, dodges the shrine, dodges the vision, comes in for the pick, lands the stun immediately. Like you said, Flash has to come out from Flandre, but they didn't want to invest all this time for nothing, so they keep following through. We're going to see a Killer Instinct follow up from Viper, and then immediately flashes to get closer to Wei to guarantee that kill. So nice mechanics there as well, coming out from the side of EDG.
Yeah, it just felt like Viper overstepped a little too much towards Xiaohu, and that is a lot of damage from Flandre. He's 0-5 and he's still one-shot people. Here we go. Huge engage from Ming. That could be the opportunity, but Ming's maybe stepped too far. He's pretty tanky though, and Flandre's the first one to go down. RNG get a good start to the fight. Scout looking for a stun here. The rest of the team, and once again, somebody goes down early for EDG, but this time around, it's Flandre that fell. He's the majority of the poke damage, and that makes it very difficult for EDG to contest the next Drake.
Yeah, that one is definitely massive for the side of RNG to find that. They're at least not going to feel as pressured, as urgent to like find the engage, right? They're going to be able to let members come back onto the map. They're going to have time. Though, Flandre will be up soon, and he actually does have teleport available, so RNG do have to be a little bit decisive.
Yeah, EDG have to buy themselves 10 seconds, and then Flandre can rejoin the fight. EDG getting rid of some wards and grouping up for this one, but RNG know that they can just start this one off. Xiaohu jumps in with the Mega Gnar. The ultimate's coming out. Cryin gets out with his life, and Scout has fallen. Meiko has fallen. Everybody has fallen. Viper, the carry that EDG needed, cannot carry 4v5, and the Drake goes the way of RNG.
And that was not only Dragon, but also going to be a Baron for the side of RNG. And, you know, prayers to the V5 gods, but really nice engage coming out from RNG, Ming and Xiaohu. And then especially the package that Cryin got to put down was layered on top of every single member of EDG.
It's so beautiful to see. And Cryin bringing out this blind pick Corki. He didn't know the matchup he was going into. He got destroyed in the laning phase, but it doesn't matter. Because when it matters the most in these team fights, fighting to deny EDG soul, he shows up with the package. Now a Baron for RNG. And sure, in terms of the gold, it's been fairly close for most of this game. But now it's 6,000 in favor of RNG as we take another look at the fight.
Yeah, and we see that Xiaohu goes in, Ming falling up as well. That Corki package seriously layered onto so many members of EDG. We see Gala and Wei in the backline dealing with Viper because too many members had already funneled out. And that's also what I was talking about with RNG in past engages, right? Is not only playing through the prio you have mid or the ability to come through mid, but also use the fact that you've consistently had pushing side lanes and create two angles to come in from to force EDG out of the area.
So now, RNG in such a commanding position. They have a huge gold lead to work with. They've got 2 Drakes. They got the Baron, importantly. Scout pushing up in the top side at least gets a tier 1, but he's trading a lot for that because they just can't clear the waves here. They can't deal with the Baron. It's a good shot blast from Flandre. Jiejie is off on a flank. Maybe he can get a good ulti. Gala's the target. Featherstorm keeps him alive for now. The ulti's still not able to come out from Jiejie. He just goes down. He never gets to use it. Scatter the Weak is there. RNG might be on the cusp of finding their way to the final. The pick on the enemy jungler isn't quite enough. They don't pull the trigger just yet. They move towards the bottom side instead and look for another inhibitor.
Man, Flandre might be 0-6, but his poke is doing so much work in these tense situations. He's chunking them down low. He's forcing them off a lot of objectives, as we see there. Still, really massive win for RNG to get such a massive, like, crack in the base. Much more than a crack. It's like a giant gaping hole, Munchables. They can just completely take over the game.
Yeah, RNG are larger in charge now. 8,000 gold lead. And just go back and think that both of these organizations historically have been dominant. And they've both been in a slump for the last year or so. Especially EDG for the last couple of years. And now, in this decider match, it's RNG, it's Xiaohu, it's the gang that are making it happen. Gala somehow surviving all of this.
RNG's comp just has a lot of tools to deal with EDG running at them. That was one of the things we were scared about earlier in the game. It was only when EDG started showing us, hey, we're actually kind of a pseudo poke comp as well, where it's like, hey, you know, this can go well for EDG, but last time around, RNG were the more decisive team in Botside River when fighting for Dragon. They found the engage, and now they have 2 inhibitors down. Xiaohu might be caught out, though.
They want to find the pick. It's Xiaohu. The Emperor of Spring himself has been caught out. Maybe this is the moment. There isn't any neutral objectives up, but RNG are going to use this as momentum. Way happy to tank the tower. Recall's coming out from EDG, but this is going to be a 3rd inhib. They can't get back in time. Sure, you've killed Xiaohu, but what does it matter when your base is in shambles? In they go. Jiejie steps on forward, has a little bit of healing, but he just goes down. This is 4v4. The rest of the team isn't here, and RNG are winning out. Flandre now trying to survive. Viper looking for a kill onto Wei, and RNG are stuck inside the base. Or maybe the base is stuck with them because the towers are going to start falling. RNG forced the fight. Scout still going strong. Cryin trying to get the damage out. Featherstorm used now as Viper has to be the carry. Scatter the Weak goes down onto Cryin, but Scout's caught himself. He goes down now. It's Viper and Flandre to hold EDG's hopes high. Can they do the impossible? Down go the towers. RNG, they want the redemption after a year's slump. They come back. The Emperors of Spring have done it, and RNG make it to finals.
Where EDG are supposed to get the returns for giving up the inhibitor, right? It's like, hey, we got the pick onto Xiaohu. We had to give up the inhib. It happens. But now we need to make it all back by finding this 5v4 fight onto RNG and coming out with a win. But RNG just played exceptionally. We saw it got to the point where especially Cryin was dealing so much damage on that Corki. Gala, of course, was hitting hard as well. And if the front line of EDG wasn't able to hold up, Jiejie just got melted before our eyes in an instant.
Yeah, it felt like Jiejie kept on trying to go in those fights and just got absolutely one-shot. Never even got to use his ulti in the last couple of fights, honestly. So really unfortunate ending to the story for EDG. They get knocked out in the lower bracket, and they will finish 3rd place in the spring LPL lower bracket there. But massive, massive happy moment for RNG, because I think we have to recap on the story so far for this team, because they finished the split in first place. They get seeded all the way into the semifinals, or into round 4. In the first round of the double elim, they just lose 0-3, just get knocked straight into the lower bracket, and have been battling through ever since. 5-game series as well to work their way through, and now making it to the final. They sure have made a meal out of this bracket, but they made it, and that's what counts.
That's actually so crazy to think about that, right? They were our first place team, seeded right into top 4, and they've still had to go ahead and just play 13 games to now get to the final itself. What a grueling bracket.
They've played more than a lot of teams that have made it way further through the bracket than them, or made it through many more series than them. I'm tripping over my words because I'm not going to lie, the adrenaline is pumping at this point. You can see Cryin topping the damage chart for his team there, and Flandre was doing his best on that Jayce. You could see a lot of the damage coming through, but it didn't feel like this composition from EDG had the tools to follow up on the damage. They never found that beautiful moment where the poke's already down and then they can find the big all-in and finish the fight, you know?
The thing is, their comp can only engage freely if their comp does get ahead early, like a massive advantage, right? Because the problem is, as we mentioned many times, that Rakan isn't really a true frontliner and engager. And especially when you're going into mid-game, even if Hecarim acts as the primary engage, you're leaving your very squishy backline and, you know, other pseudo frontline vulnerable for RNG to just run wild. So with this composition not finding an early advantage, it kind of pivoted them into the playstyle that they had. I think they made it work as well as they could, right? There were so many close fights, so many times they forced RNG off objectives, but at the end of the day, Xiaohu showed up, Wei showed up, and then I think especially for Cryin got outlined by Scout all series. But at the end of the day, you don't need to, you know, I guess be the best laner to end up being the LPL champion, because we got Doumbé and we got Cryin in that final. Again, neither necessarily known for their laning. I do think maybe a bit overplayed with Doumbé, but Cryin in team fights, complete monster this game.
Yeah, really, really beautiful from Cryin on the Corki as well. A pick that really has just not been seen in the LPL. There's been like a sporadic scattering of
only
Corkis across the split. And let's be honest, we have hundreds of games of split in the LPL. And we've seen maybe like 7 or 8 Corki games, which 7 or 8 in other regions is quite a few. Here, that's nothing. That's like, basically it's not been picked. So Cryin pulling it out when it mattered the most, blind as well, getting bullied in lane, but as you say, showing up in those team fights. And I think Xiaohu as well, having a really great series for himself. Obviously, they really lent into that in this last game. They really made a meal out of making sure that he was getting fed for himself. But the way that he positioned so aggressively to find these opportunities for the team on this Gnar, it feels like he is constantly on that thin line between bravery and insanity, right? But so often he finds so much more out of these fights because of it.
Well, and it goes to something I heard Bwipo say on the LEC, you know, before their finals, where he got asked, you know, his opinion about, you know, why is it so hard playing against LPL players? And he said, even when players like are ahead, or if they fall behind, even if they're like useless, like in Flandre's scenario right now, he's 0-6. Bwipo used the same example. They could be like 0-4 on their champion, and they are still milking out every amount of damage they can get. We saw Flandre do that, but we saw Xiaohu do that especially, always walking forward. We remember when he was posturing in front of the Rift Herald like 1v4, still making sure he's autoing Jiejie. And that's what makes these guys phenomenal players who are fighting to be in the final.
Yeah, and RNG have managed to make it to the final. That is going to be our big matchup. RNG versus FPX, an MSI champion versus a world